Hello all, thanks for checking out Chaos Control. Keith Sinclair here, the architect of chaos. You can learn all about why Chaos Control was created and more in my Substack article that I posted recently, and there's a link in the description along with any other links you might need I might refer to during this quick recording. I'll be doing a quick demo of Chaos Control today, using Chaos Control to build a website for Chaos Control. I need a new website for it, which will be hosted on my servers. I'll also download Chaos Control and show you how that works as well. I've already set up the DNS and I have empty directories ready to go. You can see the directory here on the screen, and I've placed some images and assets and some raw website components that will be used, that the AI will use to build the website. And so this is basically the concepts around why and how Chaos Control exists, and the article that I wrote. It's a copy of the article that I wrote in there as well. So first of all, we're over here on GitHub, so that's my GitHub and allocation, KC Sinclair, and on Chaos Control we click on releases. I just built a release earlier. We're going to be downloading this release here. We go to assets and we're going to download Darwin, that's Mac, for ARM64. That's come down into my downloads directory, so I'm going to unzip Chaos Control. Then I'm going to change into that directory. Now on Macs we have to do this X attribute thing, which is a trivial thing to do. Just telling that it's safe, you're allowing the Mac to run that command. And then we're going to authorize, we're going to create one user. So we have to initialize a user. So to do that securely, we do that from the command line. So we just go Chaos Control. And I'm just going to put my password in. And my user's created. And now at that point, we can basically start the GUI. So we're just going to go Chaos Control, and you'll see that running in the background. It's ready to go. So we'll add a new tab here. We'll go to 127. And it wants immediate, it's already seen activity, wants us to log in. And now we're here in an empty Chaos Control. There's no projects currently. So we're going to create a project called the Chaos Control IO. So we're going to have, I'm just going to call it, I like to keep the names simple and descriptive. So kaoscontrol.io, and that's a description, that's fine. So we'll put -io. And we're going to, that's in my home directory, which on a Mac is users Keith, download projects, kaoscontrol.io, and we can check that path exists and it's writable, ready to go. This is the Chaos Control website, and I'm the owner. So now we have an empty directory. You can see here we've got our website assets and our website raw content ready to go. Chaos Control's not ready to go. It doesn't have the things that it needs to operate. What's important here is that you can bring any existing project in and start using Chaos Control, or you can just start with an empty project. We're effectively starting with an empty project, but you could just go and initialize this in an existing directory. It just wants to create a lifecycle directory and uses a few other things. It won't replace any existing files by default. This is essentially an empty directory, so away we go. We initialize, and we're done. So now the scaffolding is ready to go. You can see all the files and directories and Claude instructions that were created in the directory. So now we're going to go to an empty dashboard. So the next step for us to do, and this is the bit that gets a bit more interesting, we're just going to go in and create an idea. So we can go, and the idea is that we want a website. So we're just going to tell it that we want a website. So I've got that prepared so we don't have to mess around. So I've just written here, this project is creating a new website for the Chaos Control project. The website will be hosted at this location. In the website raw content folder are various documents about the creation of this project, and then a contemporary, and then an assets directory is mentioned there. And I want to make a contemporary single-page long scrolling website which needs to explain the benefits of Chaos Control and provide GitHub links to the project and to downloads, and a placeholder for me to link in those links, which I now have. I could link in, but we can iterate rapidly. So now creating the idea. The first step is it takes a simple idea. Chaos Control takes a simple idea and turns it into a more comprehensive idea. It just helps to expand that out, and it does a little bit of extra context. So what we've written down, it's actually marked up, it's thought it through, and it's given us a slightly more detailed one. And this is our Chaos Control marketing website.md. That's our first idea. So now we review the idea. If we're happy with it, we approve that. Now we're not into releases at the moment, so we won't change the release because we're just trying to get a website done. And now we're going to kind of have a look at the agents. So I have a series of agents ready to go, and you can see there's one bit of work ready to go for the requirements analyst. So we select that and run it. Now you can see that agent's running. We can expand out and have a look at what's going on. And it'll keep logging down here as it goes. I'll show you some other quick things. So there's other analysts here that other agents that are going to be part of the process. So we've had an idea, we're going to make requirements from that idea. And this is a formal process that we would use in writing, enterprise class software or commercial grade software. So we're going to take the idea, we're going to make requirements from that, we're going to review those requirements, then we're going to ask the planning analyst to go and do the work, to then ask to plan what the developers have to do. So essentially it's like you're working with some BAs and you're working with a development team. We have a back-end developer, a front-end developer, and a test developer, and then we have a QA person, and then we also have a tech writer that we can use if you needed to. This project probably doesn't need a tech writer, and we've also got a test runner. The whole concept here is test-driven development, so that you always have tests that you can use to verify and validate that your software is working the way you intend to work. This is essentially the way we do modern software. And that agent's still going right now, so we can have a click on that full log, and you can see here all the work that it's doing, and it's thinking about things and the way it goes, and it's writing up things here for the back-end developer and the front-end developer. You don't really have to, the raw log is not typically for people to read. You would just wait for this to finish. Go have a quick look at the agent, and it's done. So of course, as soon as I go away from the screen, it's done. So there, our agent's done. So when we now have another artifact ready to go. So we've got our requirements are blocked. So there's questions that it wants to ask me, and this is the way that it works. So if it's not sure what to do, it's going to ask you questions to clarify what it needs to know. And that's one of the main things when you're using Claude especially. And it's got quite a lot of questions, so let's go through these pretty quickly. You can do all of the editing in the browser. You could, of course, go and be using Visual Studio Code as well. Questions. It didn't take me very long, but I thought I'd just skip through that so that you didn't need to see everything. Now I'm going to save those, and then we can go through the requirements. So the idea now is that you would go through these requirements as much as you want to. You don't need, it's up to you. Vibe coding is a little bit about trusting the robots, but it's good to understand what it wants to do. And yep, we want a hero at the top. Yep, we want to have a problem statement. Yep, we want what chaos control is. Yep, we want the key benefits and features and how it works. This is all very good. And there's images that I've placed in. That's why it's sort of prompted for some of these things, because it's actually understood the context of everything. And then we've come down visual brands and so forth. I didn't give it any fonts or anything like that, so it's just asking questions, which is why it had so many questions. If I'd given it some branding information or something, it would have had a lot less. So that's basically ready to go. So we're going to approve that. A couple of ways we could run this. I'm just going to hit run here, and we're going to give it to the planning analyst, and away it goes. So that's work's now gone to the planning analyst. We can come back here and have a look. Have a look at it working. And away it goes. And it's all of the input and the interactions it starts with. ready to go. So I've waited here on the activity feed. That took a few minutes to run. So now we can see the activity feed that things are finished, and we can see over here on the right panel, this is really just for demonstration purposes, but on the right panel you can see it's created these 3 artifacts that we need to have a look at. So a couple of ways we can look at them. This works for me. I go to the planning analyst and we can now see how well and how much we used and how long that took. So it took 4 minutes and cost us 81 cents and was very efficient in its use of tokens. And then now you can basically go through and have a look, and then you would approve these, you know. And what I do now is run the agent straight from here. All of your artifacts in here, so we can look for the test artifact, for example. So if we wanted test plans, and we can approve that one, ready to go. Backend developer's now finished, so it did take 6 minutes. They've done quite a lot of work. They've built some scripts for us to run. They've built no tests yet because that'll come from someone else. They've built some assets in the directories and files and favicons, and it's moved things around and done the things that it might need to do. There's the images that it's decided to use, and it's created web-packed versions of those that are much, much smaller. So it's all the sorts of things that we want it to do. So now what we're going to do is click on front end, and I'll come back to you shortly and show you where we're at. Oh, it's fucking done. So you'll see that we've just finished the test developer. It's taken quite a long time. We'll just go back and have a look at the agents. You're looking at the activity feed here. The activity feed shows us what's going on, so you can sort of leave it open on this screen and walk away. We can come back to the agents, and I've been really surprised today how long that's taken. When I did this last week, it took maybe 5 minutes to do the whole website, all development activities, and another minute or 2 to do each of the analyst steps. I think Claude's under some heavy load at the moment. But basically the website's essentially ready to go. Now there's a DevOps system built in, and so what we do is we create a pipeline. There's a bit of an example there of what you need to put into one, but I've prepared one earlier. And there's this first one is publish the website, and that's so we're going to just call that the same thing. So publish. That's the file name. So we're going to say publish. Publish-kaos-control. I won't like that. There. So publish kaos-control, and that's the release. And so that one's got 2 steps. And then the second one that we want to do is a test site. So if you were doing this, because we don't have a site today, you would normally do a testing, like UAT, dev test site. So we can just say testing for dev kaos-control IO. Course testing. So what we'll actually do is we'll just run this one. That's just rsyncing everything in the htdocs directory up to that server, and now we're done. And then we're going to come back to dev.kaoscontrol. And there's our website. So that actually doesn't look too bad. I'm just going to scroll down and have a look. Some quite nice features there. Some good summaries. This how it works is probably a little bit messy. We could rearrange that. It's got some roadmap seeing that in action. That's not bad. Who it's for. That's good. You know, instructions to download it here. That's all looks okay for now. And then there's a download button there which takes you to releases, which is actually a good way to do that. That was actually a pretty good idea. and then view on GitHub link. That's really good. And naming lots of things. So, and there's my Substack link and my GitHub link. So that's actually a pretty nice website. That's not too bad at all. So we'll go back to Chaos Control and have a look. So basically, that sort of concludes the demo. We have used Chaos Control to build a website for Chaos Control, and we do see here that the agents have taken quite a long time, and that's all Claude processing time. So our interactive time here hasn't been very long, probably about 10 minutes or so that I've actually spent on it, and then I've just kept an eye on these windows in the background. So if you've got anything you want to know, please put some questions into the chat, into the comments. I'll keep an eye on that, and or you can reach out to me through tech42.io. That's TEK42.io. Cheers.